In this video, we'll be talking about natal moon in Taurus and what this means in a general sense, because in future videos, we'll talk about what it means in each house individually. But with that being said, let's get right into it by explaining what the moon signifies in a brief way. The moon really shows us the emotional nature of somebody, and it also shows us what they use as a resource creatively in life. So how they solve problems. It's a feminine planet, and it's about solutions. The moon rules the fourth house, which comes after the third house. Or basically it rules Cancer, which is associated with the fourth house. And Cancer comes after Gemini. Gemini is about thinking, it's about the mind, it's about communication and intellect. And Cancer is about intuition or conclusions or answers. And also it rules our family, it rules our mother, and how we feel nurtured. So how this all ties in is that, the mother or the nurturing figure is the solution person, the person that gives us the answer to our needs. And that's all what the moon and what Cancer and the fourth house is all about. It's how we solve problems. With that being said, the sign of Taurus is where the moon is exalted. So we'll talk about what this means and why it's a positive placement. But anyways, with the sign of Taurus. The sign of Taurus is about resources. It's also about stability and finances as well in a general sense. It's about self-esteem and self-worth. That's really the best way to sum it up, and it can really be summed up to worth or value. Now, with that being said, when you have the moon in Taurus where it's exalted, this just indicates somebody that has a stable emotional nature. Taurus is an earth sign. It's the fixed earth sign. And generally speaking, with the moon in Taurus, this indicates that you're somebody that's generally content emotionally. You're pretty self-sufficient as well. You tend not to depend too much on others, and you feel content. And in fact, with the moon in Taurus, what you'll notice is that for the most part, other people tend to depend on you as a resource. And you like solving problems in a logical, practical way. And you're somebody that is resourceful and that people come to. That's what the moon in Taurus means. Now, as well, whatever house that it's in your chart and whatever that house signifies, this means that you take the contents of that house and you turn it into something practical or tangible. And you use that as a resource to solve problems. The reason why is because Taurus is the sign of material things, and it's about what's tangible. So something being tangible or turning something into a tangible thing does not actually have to be like an item or like a physical resource. Sometimes something tangible is just a plan. So generally speaking, though, people with moon in Taurus, they like to solve things in a tangible way. And they like to solve things by using resources, because Taurus is the sign of resources. And this is a very logical and effective way to solve problems. And this is why the moon is exalted in Taurus. So when there's an issue or when there's a goal, you like to sit down and either plan and create some sort of tangible solution, or it could mean that if you have the resources, you like to solve things very directly using finances or whatever tangible thing you can do to fix the problem. But yeah, as well, like I was saying, the moon in Taurus indicates somebody that is content and feels stable. And this is because you are somebody that works with what you have. Taurus is the sign of possessions. So when you have the moon in Taurus, this is about working with what you have. And that's a good way to approach things. As opposed to the moon in Scorpio, where it's debilitated. Scorpio is the sign of not having. It's the sign of lack or desire. So how do you work with what you don't have? That is why the moon is debilitated in Scorpio, and it can show somebody that can be needy or depressed, or it can just feel overwhelmed by life's challenges and complications. Scorpio is the sign of complications, and it's a malefic sign. But we'll get to that placement when the time comes. But for now, we'll stick to Taurus. But you guys are the opposite of that. You always have a resource because you always have the ability to sit down and draft a plan. And that's one of your favorite things to do. You like to plan things out. In general as well, what gives you comfort or security is resources. And you also have this need for people to respect your values and your preferences. Taurus is the sign of values. Now, a random fact about Moon and Taurus is that the thing that disrupts them or makes them unhappy is when people morally or culturally criticize their choices or judge them or boss them around. This is one of the few ways that will make you feel unstable or annoyed. So you hate when people preach at you. The reason why is because Taurus has Sagittarius in the 8th house. The 8th house is about complications, power struggles, anger, vengefulness. And so Taurus dislike people that try to stand above them morally and try to tell them what to do and try to change their values. So with the moon in Taurus, you're very sensitive to this kind of stuff, and it makes you angry perhaps or defensive. Now, another thing about moon in Taurus, they're very attached to their resources. Emotionally, you will be attached to your finances if you have this placement. And you're a careful and resourceful person. So the other thing is that you don't like taking risks for the most part with this placement. Again, the reason why is because Sagittarius is in the 8th house from Taurus. And again, the 8th house is about lack. The 8th house is associated with Scorpio. It's something that we don't have, or it's something that we may envy in others when the time comes for us to use that trait, but we don't have it. So again, Taurus does not like taking risks because it's the sign of resourcefulness. And also, it doesn't like when people try to judge them or teach them things. Generally, you feel like you have everything you need right in your skull, right between your two ears when you have the moon in Taurus. And the next thing about this placement is that it generally indicates somebody that is intelligent. Because when the moon is in Taurus, it's in the 11th sign from the sign of Cancer. And the moon rules Cancer. So it's in the 11th from its own sign. The 11th is about logic, intelligence, being emotionally detached. So when the moon is in Taurus, it indicates that emotionally you're stable, and also you possess a solid self-esteem. And so your emotions become like a resource. They actually hold weight to others because you use them sparingly and you use them logically. So when you express hurt or you express a need, all those water traits, those emotional situations, people actually listen, or people take it seriously because your emotions hold more weight and because you're logical and you're detached. And you have a healthy self-esteem. So you're able to have healthy emotional relationships. So again, that's why the moon is exalted in Taurus. Or I guess that's kind of like a connection between exaltation and the fact that moon in Taurus shows a very good emotional nature for the most part. Or just somebody that's secure and that doesn't rely on others. The only thing is people will tend to rely on you, or they'll tend to ask you for resources. And generally speaking, you like to nurture other people by giving them resources, whether that's a plan. Sometimes you like to preach to other people, or you like to analyze their psychology and break down why their plan may not work or what they should do. Or sometimes you even just like giving people resources in the form of money and stuff. But people really like coming to you for help for that reason. But generally, we can sum up this placement as somebody that is emotionally stable and is relatively detached or logical about their emotions. And they are intelligent because the way that they solve problems is by using tangible means or tangible forms of things. So whether that's money or whether that's a plan, but they will always use whatever they have and they will always be content wherever that they're at. Taurus is the sign of wealth. So they have that spiritual wealth within them. The ability to just use whatever they have around them and builds from there. With that being said, they do not do well when it comes to taking risks or when it comes to faith. And they also don't like to be preached at or morally criticized or morally influenced. And the last thing, though, which is kind of random, is that with the sign of Taurus being about earth and nature and plants, something that can recharge you emotionally and can recharge your whole being and your sense of self, because the moon shows us our substance and it shows us our essence and whatnot. Something that can recharge yourself and your essence is nature. You have an affinity for nature for the most part if you have the moon in Taurus, and just sitting out in the grass, in nature, around trees, maybe perhaps even the ocean and like a lake, like things like that. Just but more importantly, plants, nature, all those kind of things will help your emotional well-being, and also they will recharge you, as well as eating plant foods like fruits and vegetables. Like, you benefit a lot from those, and they help your mental clarity. You know, that's kind of like your magical elixir. You have an affinity for nature, and you're rooted in nature in that way. So congratulations if you were born with this placement in this lifetime. It's an exalted placement. But yeah, I like this placement. But with that being said, I think I covered most of what I wanted to in this video. And other than that, we'll go through each of the house placements pretty soon. But I would like to thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate you guys supporting the channel in any way that you do. And for natal chart readings and inquiries, check out my Patreon, where I do a natal chart reading for each one of my subscribers there. And we post content on there. Well, I guess I do. And we kind of, have this community going there. And yeah, so I post content on there from time to time. So if you would like to support this channel financially, then that is a way to do so. With that being said, I will see you guys sometime soon in another video. Thanks for watching. Peace.